may know that well, may not know, I'm in Saskatoon, but I'm in teacher training this week. And so I would normally be down in Massachusetts. And so instead we're online, Zooming. And so today, because we were hanging out today, I invited my good friend Rachel from the training to join us today. And Rachel's over there. She just posted Galliano Island behind her. And so Rachel's here as our kind of a special guest tonight. And she's, in a way, it was a spontaneous thing today, but she's kicking off, in a way, a series that our planning committee has initiated, where we're at about once every couple of months, we're going to invite Dhamma friends to join us. And so June 24th, Rachel's going to come back with a couple of other Dhamma friends and share the evening together. And so we thought this would be a wonderful way for you to meet my cohort, my teaching colleagues, and for them to meet you. And so it's kind of a wonderful gift for me to get to introduce you to each other. And so Rachel and I have known each other since 2008, when we were together in what's called the Dedicated Practitioner Program, a 2-year program down at Spirit Rock, and Immersion in the Dharma. And then after that, we took another 2-year program called the Community Dharma Leader Program together. And then we're now in the 4-year teacher training program together. And Rachel leads a 7 o'clock sitting group in Vancouver. And she also teaches at the Berry Center for Buddhist Studies, which is a wonderful place if you want to do some online courses. And also, she's developed a songbook of traditional chants, including her own choral arrangements. And we sang with her all through training. And I have secretly, not so secretly, actually wanted to have her over here to do a weekend or a day long with us chanting. So this was the start. So she's going to chant for us tonight, the refuges. And we can chant along. And I want to just really welcome you, Rachel. And actually, our Sangha already knows Rachel, because Rachel, in her great generosity, donated our bell that we use on our retreats. This is Rachel of the bell. So thank you, Rachel. This is the way we can say thank you without clapping. Thank you, Rachel. So your generosity rings out in every retreat that we have here in Saskatoon. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to try to share the screen with you with the refuges, the chant, and so that you can see the screen. I'm going to do my very best. And then Rachel will chant for us and we can chant along. And then we'll do our usual, I'll lead a sit. And then I'm going to talk about clear seeing, which we started on last week. And then Rachel, I'm going to invite Rachel to offer her thoughts on clear seeing as well. So I'm going to try to share the screen and see if I can do it. Yes, I got the thumbs up from Andrea. Is it big enough, Andrea, that we can see it? Make it bigger? How do I do that? I asked before, I thought I knew how. Oh, there it is. Okie dokie. Okay, now I'm going to use the cursor to point. This is the first line. Can you see that moving, Andrea? Okay, so this is the first line. All I can see is Andrea right now. I'm going to see if I can see other people too. Okay, so everyone, we're familiar with this. This is the first line that we'll chant. So that's our first calling up the Buddha, calling up the homage to the Buddha. We're calling up the Buddha, which we know is our own internal understanding of peace. This is our innate capacity for peace and understanding. And then we're going to chant this part here, Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. And these are the 3 refuges that we take, that we can rest into anytime. Refuges that can inspire us and give us a place of understanding So we take refuge in the Buddha, which is our own internal capacity for peace. We take refuge in the Dhamma. Those are the teachings. As we come to rest, practice the Dhamma for ourselves, we can come to understand, and this is a refuge. The breath can be a refuge. The teachings are refuge in every moment. And then we take refuge in this word here. These are all Pali words, the Sangha. And the Sangha is the community, and the community here that's gathered here tonight that are supporting our practice, the different communities that we're all a part of. And we always like to recognize the community of nature that is with us with every breath, supporting us with every breath, supporting us with every step. And we also like to recognize the community of Treaty 6 that we're all a part of here. And so, Rachel, is there anything else that you want to add before we begin, before you lead us in the chant?
Yeah, just that it's such a precious thing to be able to take this time to align ourselves with what is worthy of honor, with our reliable sources of safety, not our strategies for feeling okay temporarily, but the safety that can be counted on, and with our own integrity to really align with how we want to be in the world, and try to remind ourselves of those values as much as possible. So it's a precious gift we give to the world when we practice in this way. So yeah, so this, I guess you've probably been doing this kind of chanting over Zoom for a few weeks now, so you're used to what's lacking in hearing the voices around you, but having only one person unmuted at a time is the best way to avoid lag and awkward things like that. So sensing into the community in the way that we're showing up here. And so the version of the chant that I'll share might be slightly different from the one you're used to, so just go with it as best you can. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So let's settle into, just let the chant ripple out in your body. And settling into a posture which feels comfortable. Noticing any sense of ripple in the body from the chant. It might be a kind of a pleasant sense. Sometimes a chant can settle the body, singing can settle the body. As we settle into our meditation tonight, I'm going to explore just very gently this clear seeing. This being, one way of understanding that is just we can be with what's here just as it is, see it clearly. And one of the ways of seeing clearly, or one of the qualities that we can sense into is and see clearly is the pleasant, wholesome qualities that we can connect with. So sensing the sense of the community here. I'm going to suggest this and other ways of tuning into what might feel wholesome or supportive for you. And not every one of these things I invite will connect in that way for you, but just let yourself be soft and see what happens as I invite our clear seeing in these different directions. And so sensing into the community and seeing if there's any sense of support or any sense of gladness in the mind at being together. And just letting that in if it's there. Sensing all the kind hearts around you. And just letting your appreciation hold everyone here. Feeling some gratitude if it's there for these kind hearts who also wish you well. And just sensing any sense of gratitude for people here on the call that you don't know so well, the whole group. Any sense of gratitude and sensing how that feels in the heart. Now we can sense into the body sitting, sensing the support of the chair or the bench, letting the body be heavy and just let it settle into the support, feeling the support under your feet, feeling the support under your hips, feeling the support along the back. Just seeing if there's any sense of a quiet kind of gladness and just feeling supported in this way. You can rest here. Nothing to do right now, nothing to fix right now, just being present, feeling this support. Noticing that you can receive the sensations of the body without a lot of effort. And there can be some nourishment in that kind of ease, that kind of settling back, that non-striving. There can be a little bit of nourishment there. Inviting the body to have some ease. Inviting the body to soften in whatever way it might wish to soften. Shoulders might soften, belly. And just sensing this invitation for ease as a kindness towards yourself. And sensing if there's any kind of soft kind of sweetness just in this kindness towards yourself. You can even offer yourself a little gentle gesture of care, the heart, or if your hands are touching each other, letting them squeeze each other. And sensing the breath in the body as it comes in the nostrils and expands in the lungs, belly, side body, sensing it in the back, feeling it in the shoulders rising and falling. Noticing this ebb and flow, this breath breathes all by itself. Noticing how easily the inhale rises, the exhale. Perhaps a little pause between the exhale and the inhale. And then the inhale rising easily again. Just noticing if there's any sense of nourishment or resting here as we rest in the ebb and flow of this breath. The mind will move to thinking and it will come back all by itself. This is just another ebb and flow. When the mind returns, simply returning the attention to the body breathing. And sensing any nourishment here. So welcome everybody. I'm just going to take a look around the whole group just to welcome everyone in my own heart. I won't say everyone's names, but just want to welcome everyone. And I wonder, Andrea, do we want to have a be on gallery view for a moment so people can see everyone? I want to let you know that we're here on Zoom without Facebook tonight. We're just each other. We wanted to honor our Facebook friends, but most of the Facebook friends were also coming into Zoom, and so we thought let's just be cozy in our Zoom room. So we're not live on Facebook tonight, and so I just want to let yourself drink in the Sangha, the community, and I'm just taking a look at everyone. It's just lovely to see everyone and see your names. And yes, it's nice to wave to each other and just say hello. It's lovely. It's lovely. See, I think I see a few people I haven't met before. Aliza, have we met? Nope. No. Welcome. Hello, Ted. Hi. And hello to all of our regular friends. It's so lovely to be here with you. And so last week we started we've been talking about the Eightfold Path, which is the Buddhist path to cultivating this innate quality, this innate capacity for peace. And we can say freedom in the mind, ease in the mind. And we've been talking about one particular aspect of the Eightfold Path, which is wise view. And within wise view, this is the understanding of how we can cultivate wisdom. And wisdom really is what does lead to peace. And one way of seeing this cultivation is that there are two qualities as we meditate that become developed, which we talked about last week: the calming qualities, the tranquility practices, or samatha in Pali, and also the clear seeing practices, the insight practices, the vipassana practices. And sometimes we want these two go together. Bhikkhu Bodhi says calming practices support the clear seeing, and clear seeing support the calming practices. And so I want to explore this tonight a bit more. And I brought something with me to illustrate this. Andrea knows what it is. I brought my jar. And so I don't know if you can see this, but this might be what the mind feels like sometimes. When we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, the busy mind. Does anybody ever have a mind like this? It just feels all stirred up. Hey, we got a few hands up. Okay, I see a few waves. Oh, great. All right, so this is the mind. And now as we settle, as we meditate, we can use the breath, we can use the body, we can use the nourishment practices that we looked at. And what can happen is that the mind and the body can settle. Has anyone ever had a little taste of that? A little taste of the settling? Yeah, okay, I'm going to look on the second page because I want to see. Anyone have ever in meditation a little sense of the settling practice, a little sense that things calm down just a tad? Okay. As we might have had this experience in nature, and so our practices are calming practices, but that doesn't always mean that everything calms down. Sometimes when we do the calming practices, what happens is that things settle down. And then we can see more clearly what's there. I'm going to tell you what's in there. You probably can't really see it, but we can see there's things in there in my jar, in my mind. So I actually used to do this exercise without any floating things in there, and it was just all calm. And that actually is not really true. Sometimes the mind calms down, but not, often it calms so we can see clearly what's in the mind. And I can't help it right now. I'm seeing clearly Brett's daughter. So sweet. Sometimes one of the things about Zoom is we get to see each other's families. Hello, Brett's daughter. Hello. You can't see, but she's waving. Are we on gallery? Maybe people want to be on gallery just for a second. Can we do that, Andrea? Are we on gallery? Okay. All right. So, it's nice to have you here. So sometimes the mind settles so that we can see clearly. And then we can work with what's in the mind and the heart. And so I've got a few things in here. The first thing I'm noticing is that there is some stillness. There's some clarity in there. There is some calming. And if you noticed as I led the meditation, you might have sensed some of that calming. And if you did, it's clear seeing to notice it. We need to notice it. And that's what makes it grow. And so clear seeing, we can direct it in the area of what can be nourished. And as we pay attention, those things grow. It's like our attention is the sunlight and the rain on the little seedling. And so we want to notice any settling that's there. And then also up here, I've got, there's a little flower. And so we can direct our attention towards things that feel nourishing like that. And so there was a lot of things I pointed us to in the meditation that may have felt nourishing for you. Did it feel nourishing to notice the support of the chair? Did it feel nourishing to notice the support of the Sangha, the community? That's a Pali word for community. Did it feel nourishing to feel the breath ebb and flow and know that you could just receive it? Don't have to effort. So we can look for these nourishments. This is one of the most important things about clear seeing, because often we don't see those. And so calming down and seeing those places of nourishment, we can find that they might be here more than we think. In fact, the Buddha talked about these qualities of nourishment can be here, are always here. It's a matter of looking in the right spot. And so then there's something else I've got in here. It's another little flower, but this flower is like a little bit more on the way to being, the blossoms kind of coming apart. And it reminds me of things come and go. Did anybody notice any coming and going in the meditation? Thoughts coming and going? The breath coming and going? This is a major clear seeing. This is a major clear seeing. If you see this, the mind coming and going, and that you're not in control, did anybody see that? We think we might be in control of the mind, but how many folks have tried to stop thinking? And how did it work for you? Give me a thumbs up if it worked. Aha, I got a thumbs down from not so well, huh? This is a major, major insight. How many people had that insight tonight? That you cannot control thoughts. All right, this is a major insight. This is, Joseph Goldstein says, this is one of the first major insights we have. And what it can help us understand is that we can understand through that clear seeing where to place our effort. Because often we place our effort in trying to stop thinking, trying to still the mind, force it to still, to get quiet, stop the thinking. And we can realize that that's not really the place to place our effort. We want to place our effort in a different direction. That is letting those thoughts ebb and flow. Coming back to the body. Letting those thoughts do their own thing. Knowing that that is the nature of thought, to come and go. We start to develop a different relationship to the thoughts. And then the thoughts can still rise, but we begin to be less caught in them because we don't take them quite as seriously. So if you've seen that, let that be understood as a very big clear seeing. What else have I got in the jar? What else have I got on here? Oh yeah, there's a floating up on the top there, there's a little sandal, a little plastic sandal. You won't be able to see that, but what that means to me is that as soon as we begin to understand even what we've understood tonight, we have the path rises. We have a sandal, we're walking on the path. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but that's what I had available tonight. We have a path. We have a path in clear seeing. Suddenly it's there for us, we can see it. We can see there's wholesome things to cultivate. And we can see, there's wholesome ways of doing things that'll lead to peace. And there's other ways of doing things that are going to lead to more suffering. This is clear seeing. This is suddenly we have clear seeing right in front of us before our very eyes, the path to peace. And we can cultivate this. Now, down at the bottom of my jar, you can't see there, but I have a shell and it's on the bottom and it represents for me deep listening. And so this is something else we can see clearly with deep listening. And Shamarika brought in some very deep questions last week. I wanted to come back to them. I don't think Shamarika's on the call tonight, but her questions might be rippling with other people. She said, clear seeing, first of all, takes a big commitment. And it does take a big commitment. It's a big commitment to ourselves and our unfolding journey. And then she said, sometimes I look and I see with my clear seeing and I see a lot of grief. And my question is, can I hold this grief? And so sometimes we have difficulty when we look inside. And seeing that's important. And so sometimes she might say, or we might say, no, I can't hold this grief right now. And that is clear seeing. And when we do not feel like we can hold the grief, then we can turn to nourishment and nourish the system. When we do feel like we can touch a difficult state like that, we can touch it a little bit, feel steady with it. And then when we feel like we need to turn, we can turn back to nourishment. Part of what makes it possible to turn towards difficult states is knowing how to turn away. And it's just as important to know how to turn away as it is to know how to turn toward. And when we know we can turn away to nourishment, then that makes, sometimes when we turn to the difficult, we think, if I turn to that, I'll never get out. It'll be overwhelming. So knowing that we can turn away when we need to, when the system starts to say, that's enough now. That's wisdom, and that's clear seeing. And then she brought in something else. She said that, one of the things she's seeing is that not everyone has the same supports within the COVID-19 pandemic. And she was feeling like into her own situation as a European person, as a white person, and feeling that she had some privilege. And I wanted to unpack that a little bit tonight. What does that mean? The notion of white privilege has been around for a long time. I remember reading a paper in the early 80s that talked about white privilege. And I mean, many of us in our Sangha have this. I have it. Although I'm Métis, which means I'm a mixed blood person with some Swampy Cree and Scottish, my skin is a color that gives me this white privilege. And so I wanted to read a little bit about this so that we can see this a bit more clearly together. And so this is from Manuela Valle Castro, who is the coordinator of the Anti-Racism Network in Saskatoon. And she says, the COVID-19 outbreak in Saskatchewan's north, the rise in reports of domestic violence, and the vulnerability of the incarcerated all have something in common. She says COVID-19 itself is not racist, but people of color are bearing the brunt of the pandemic. To put it simply, she says, Madonna could get COVID-19 and she's going to probably be fine. But because we already have systems that are in crisis due to structural racism, we have a problem. The virus is revealing what we call racial disparities or racial inequities. The virus is going to have a much harsher impact in communities that were already suffering from food insecurities, poor access to health, poor access to preventative health and social programming, from structural employment and poverty, and communities that lack drinking water, clean drinking water. She says racism is so embedded in our policies, our work cultures, our systems, especially the health and justice systems, that it really creates a crisis for a lot of people. And if we don't change that, she says we're not going to change the results of the social outcomes, specifically for Indigenous people in our city in Saskatoon. And so what this means in terms of white privilege or European privilege is that those communities, those of us in those kinds of communities, generally, this is not every case, generally have more robust support for health, where we don't have the same effects in our health system of the trauma that is in many Indigenous communities. So we don't have the trauma in our bodies healthcare wise, and we don't have these communities also don't have the same difficulties with employment. And so Indigenous communities in Canada and African American communities in the States are the ones that are already at risk for these factors, and so have a bigger rate of illness with COVID, higher rate of death from COVID, and higher risk. And so this is part of what Shamarika was pointing to about white privilege. Just that we need to clearly see it so that we can include and understand our whole, the situation for our whole Sangha, our whole community. And Robin DiAngelo is a wonderful facilitator and writer in the States who speaks about this. She talks a lot about whiteness, and she says that one of the things that makes it difficult for those of us who have this, who belong or are in this population, difficult to talk about it, is that it raises a lot of guilt, hidden kind of guilt that we don't want to look at. I mean, I have felt that. I've kind of worked with that quite a bit, but I felt it very intensely when I first came into this sense of white privilege. And her take is, we don't need to feel guilty. There's no guilt required. We just need to see it clearly. And then be able to support the whole community to have what everyone needs to be as supported in all times, but especially now in COVID. So I know that occurred. This is a issue in our own province. Some practitioners this last week sent me an email saying that part of their concern is for the most vulnerable people in our community, the people who have these kinds of risks in the community and who have these kinds of discrepancies. So we want to see this clearly. So I was very glad that Shamarika brought this in, so that we could take a look at this together and just bring it into our consciousness together. And so I'm wondering if Rachel might have something to offer. And I'm noticing that we have another friend here, Rachel, as well. Devon, I think, is on the call now. Devon Hase. We can't see your picture, Devon, but I can see your, or I can see your picture, not you yourself. So welcome, Devon. If you want to say hello, just let me know. You can unmute. Hey, there she is.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I was just about to go for a walk and listen, Jeannie.
Okay, you want to listen in? All right.
Yeah, but it's really sweet to be here with all of you.
It's really sweet to have you here, Devon. And Devon's going to come back and join us sometime too, as our special guest. She is.
Thank you.
Oh, Devon, just before you go, Devon Hase is the author of How Not to Be a Hot Mess. And I know some people in the Sangha have been reading you, Devon. And
Oh, that's so sweet.
we look forward to having you back, and we hope that you'll share with us about your book.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeannie. Yeah, I've just heard so many good things about the Sangha, so I'm delighted to be here with you all. Yeah.
Well, you,
Good.
you want to just listen it, or do you want to add a minute or two or something about clear seeing?
Yeah, I think I'll just listen. I'm about to take you guys into the woods with me. So I'm sending all sorts of good Southern Oregon woodsy vibes.
Beautiful. Thanks for coming, Devon.
Yeah.
It's very, very sweet for me to have you meet my precious and beloved Sangha. All right. So Rachel, I was just inviting you if you wanted to say a few words, and we generally go, Rachel, till about 8, and then we have some time, or just before 8, we've got some time for questions or comments. So.
No, I'm really appreciating the way that you've brought in so many different dimensions, from seeing the things that nourish our own minds to seeing the structures that keep us in suffering. And when I was thinking about clear seeing earlier, what came to mind is the things that obstruct our ability to see clearly. And one of because we think, oh, if we tend to trust our perceptions of situations, and we sometimes give that trust unduly. I was talking with a friend who was really upset about this situation, and with another friend of his, and it's like he sounded really upset, and like this person had said something dreadful about him to a third party, and it was becoming this huge like really complicated, twisted mass of feelings. And I talked to him a couple of days later, and he's like, oh yeah, I completely misinterpreted what I heard about this situation, and basically, he said, I got my knickers in a twist for nothing. And I'm like, yeah, that's not relatable at all. I've certainly never done that myself. But we can form these views of who we are, who a person in our life is, what a situation is, and then act all surprised when those views aren't verified by experience. And I think one of the there was I ended up in a similar situation. A friend had sent me an email, and I was away from my computer all day, unexpectedly, and she sent me this long follow-up email like, I know you probably don't think I have feelings too, but blah 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 blah. And when I explained, something came up and I just wasn't able to. She's like, oh, okay, I guess I need to sit a bit more these days. And because one of the things that we do in practice is to see these overlays that we put on our experience, and to see the way, sometimes I think the whole path of practice is just seeing how we make things harder for ourselves than they need to be. Like all of these ideas we have about how things are, instead of just pausing and taking in a little bit more information. And as we practice, you know, our nervous systems get to know what it feels like to be in this relaxed, receptive place where we can drop out of our thoughts about the situation and actually start to take in information, you know, directly. On my first long retreat, I was at IMS in Massachusetts, and there's like the loop that those of you who've been to that retreat center will have walked the loop. It's sort of a 3-mile walk on country roads, and so I was having a lot of agitation and a lot of like stirred up thinking on this retreat, and so I would often walk this loop as a way of burning off some energy. And there was this one day where I realized, you know, I'm not walking and fretting. I'm not walking and remembering. I'm not walking and planning. I'm not walking and judging. I'm just walking. Wow. And there was something so like fresh and childlike about it. It sort of felt like, you know, I was 8 years old walking home from school and just sort of checking out the trees, like just the lack of busyness in the mind. Just let everything land with so much more poignancy. Like the sky looked bluer than it had a few days before. The snow was snowier, and so you know, to the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism, you know, the word suffering comes up a lot, but I actually think that Buddhists are pleasure seekers. And we're just seeking more and more reliable pleasures, like the pleasure of a mind that is settled and receptive, that isn't churning up thoughts and speculation and projections and theories, that can actually sit back and have this sense of inner well-being that doesn't depend on, you know, pleasant stimuli so much. And so, you know, and so we're developing a taste for that kind of pleasure in our practice. We're cultivating our palate for this, the flavor of the mind at peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that brings us right up to the hour. So I'll pause here and see what Jeanne and everybody has to say.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I love that. Just feeling that taste for peace. Thank you so much. So we have some time now to offer, check in, offer any reflections, questions for myself or Rachel, or just checking in, what's happening with your practice.